This video is really not meant to make you feel bad about where you are right now, but instead it can be a guide of where you want to be. Hi everyone! Welcome back to my channel. I'm Charm from Ready2Adult Philippines, a channel about personal finance, entrepreneurship, and adulting how-tos. So every Filipino wants to provide the best education for their kids, get quality medical care, and eventually have a comfortable retirement life. So all of that requires preparation, and the big question is, are Filipinos preparing enough? According to the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas or the BSP, only 29% of Filipinos have bank deposits in 2019. That's one of the lowest savings rate in Southeast Asia. And the MISI survey shows that a typical working Filipino only has around 3.6 months saved up for their retirement. So what happens after the 4th month, right? Like I mentioned in my FIRE video, financial independence and retirement mean different things to different people. Whether your idea of financial independence means spending more time with your family, pursuing your passions, traveling, you will need a good plan and enough preparation. So in this video, we will be talking about the different savings goals that you might want to have in every stage of your life. And without further ado, let's start the video. So there's a lot of factors why Filipinos can't really prepare, but some of the main reasons that are coming from the survey is that a lot of Filipinos don't prepare enough for retirement because they say that they don't have enough money to begin with. And also, they lack the awareness or they don't know where to even start. Or we practice the bahala na attitude, which we all know is very prevalent in our country. And also the YOLO mentality, or, you only live once, so might as well enjoy now and think about retirement later. Or many just really believe and think that they'll be working after retirement, right? Okay, so before we jump into it, I just want to point out that it's quite difficult to have hard numbers because every one of us has different incomes, lifestyles, and responsibilities. Everyone's goals are very different, and by the time they retire, they might want a very extravagant lifestyle or maybe a very simple one. So like what I always say, it's really about looking for what's best for you and what works for you. So for the sake of the computations, I will be using the median income of a typical Filipino. I'm not using the average income. The difference is that the average income is a little bit bigger because the rich are very rich, right? So the average income in the Philippines is at around 45,000 pesos a month, while the median income, or where the 50% of Filipinos fall under, is at around 22,000 pesos a month. I will link where I got all of these down below so that you can also check it out. Also, I want to share what I found in another survey wherein they said around 60% of Filipinos' net worth is around $10,000 or around 500,000 pesos. Okay, so based on the median income of Filipinos, which is 22,000 pesos a month, the average annual salary, that's times 12, is 264,000. I know that a lot of Filipinos might be earning 13 to maybe 16 months in a year, but for the sake of easier calculations, I'm gonna use times 12. First, let's talk about our 20s. These are some goals that you might want to achieve before you hit 30. And I know that I already have a video where we talked about the money goals in your 20s, so you can check that out where I expounded on some of these. So in our early 20s, we might have a hard time saving up for retirement or even for our investments because maybe we are still in school or we just graduated, we just started our job, or maybe we just have a small side hustle. So with this, I really want you guys to focus on the habits of saving, and especially doing that through saving up for your emergency fund. Your 20s are the perfect time to build your emergency fund because you might be having some bills of your own already, and also because you don't want to drain your savings in case of a rainy day. Experts advise to have around 6 months of emergency fund, but of course, you can always grow that later on to maybe 9 months or 1 year. So other than your emergency fund, another goal that you should try to hit when you get 30 is to have at least 1 year of your salary saved up. So when we use the 22,000 pesos per month, that's around 264,000 a month. Okay, so those are some solid good goals. How are we going to reach them? First is to save up your bonuses. So like I mentioned, 13th month pay to 16th month pay, Christmas bonuses, as much as possible, save those up so you can reach your goals faster. And also you can try to save at least 10% of your income. Next is to try to build good credit or good credit score. So again, in the Philippines, our credit score is pretty young, but it does make a lot of difference in terms of loaning or even getting another credit card. As you notice, if you apply for a credit card and it's your first time, it's typically harder. If you guys want to check out, I'll link some credit cards down below. I have a Citibank affiliate link down below and also a UNIONBANk one. So I use those two the most. What I always remind you guys when getting a credit card is that you don't treat it as extra money. You have to treat it as money that you already have and that you're going to spend anyway. And at the end of every billing, you have to pay it in full. Don't leave a balance. I just found out that a lot of people think that leaving a balance in their credit cards can help boost their credit score. It actually does the opposite thing. It actually makes your credit score bad if you have a balance on your card. I also have a credit card 101 video. You can check that out. Next is to learn how to budget. So again, we're focusing on the habits first in our 20s. Learning where your money goes and prioritizing saving every month is a really good habit to build in your 20s, and you're going to be thankful for it when you get to 30s, 40s, and so on. And lastly is to start investing. I know I mentioned earlier that it's probably going to be hard, and I'm not saying that you should aggressively invest if you really can't, but at least try out investing. I promise you that once you start it, again, it's a habit that you're going to be bringing throughout your adult life. And it's very important because as much as you can, if you can, invest and save as much as you can in your 20s because of, again, compounding interest. To start investing, you can check out my video on GoTrade, which is an app I've been loving because of the low barrier of entry. You can invest there with US stocks. Now let's talk about your 30s. What are the goals before we hit 40 years old? First is to have at least 2 times your annual income already. So from the 264,000, you should now have around 528,000. Next is to aim to save or invest 20% of your income. So back in our 20s, we're trying to save 10%. Now in our 30s, let's try to save up 20%. Again, based on the table that Mr. Money Mustache made, around 37 years of saving 20% will yield you a retirement fund that will last you your lifetime. So for example, you're setting aside around 10% or 2,200 pesos per month. In a period of around 30 years, earning 6% compounding interest, you will have around 2.2 million pesos. But if you will save 20% of your income or around 4,400 pesos over 30 years, 6% compounding interest, you will have 4.4 million. Another goal is to consistently invest. You've already dabbled into investing, and this is the perfect time to consistently invest every month so that you have more time to grow your investments. Okay, so what should we do? First, we need to save for upcoming milestones. So in your 30s, I think this is the time where we're already planning our own family or maybe our own financial goals. So in our 30s, it's the time when we have more responsibilities already. Maybe we're starting out our own family or even planning big purchases. So saving up for those milestones, whatever it may be for you, is very important. Next is try to expand your emergency savings. If in our 20s, we're only saving around 6 times our monthly expenses, let's try to bump that up to around 1 year or 12 months of your expenses, especially since in your 30s, your expenses might have changed. Next is to try to establish financial stability, meaning let's try not to live paycheck to paycheck. Let's pay our bills in full and all our expenses, insurances, and all of that, and just try to not have bad debt. Which brings me to my next point, eliminate bad debt. You can try to keep your home loan or your car loan if you have them already, but eliminate consumer or bad debt, meaning credit cards or loan sharks, 5, 6, or those really high interest consumer debt that are just really not worth stressing about. So the goal really is to be bad debt free when you hit 40, because in your 40s, you want to work towards these so that in your 50s, you have 4 times of your annual income. So that's already 1,056,000 pesos. And another goal should be to buy your home if you're planning to do so, this is around the perfect time or the latest time that you should buy a home so that you can have a fully paid home by the time you retire or in your 60s. Lastly is to diversify your investments. You might have been investing for over a decade now, and this is the perfect time to diversify because you also shouldn't diversify too early on. Now might be the time you want to invest in other vehicles, maybe dabble into real estate or maybe put more money into stocks or funds. Okay, so what should we do? First is to establish an estate plan, especially if you're already planning to build or buy a house. It's around the right time to start thinking about where your assets will go in case you pass away. And I know it sounds so morbid, but estate planning is just really another tool that we can use when it comes to personal finance or financial planning, and it's the realities of life. You can set up trusts, learn about writing a will, and just really allocating or setting boundaries for both your assets and also your liability. So you don't want to put that financial burden also in your family. So make sure that you're already prepared for that as well, maybe with an MRI or mortgage redemption insurance. Okay, now let's talk about your goals in your 50s. So your 40s and 50s are really prime years of your career because ideally you would have been earning way more than when you started in your 20s and 30s. So your 50s is really preparation for retirement. So have around 5 to 7 times your annual income saved up already. And that's around 1,848,000 pesos. So what should you be doing to try to achieve all of these by the time you hit 60? So first is to pay off your home loans. So again, we're nearing retirement. So ideally, we won't have these to think about then. So another really important thing that you have to do is to know your future spending. How much are you going to spend month to month when you retire? Again, I mentioned in my FIRE video that you have to have at least 25 times your annual expenses invested so that it doesn't run out for your retirement fund. And that really just means that you have to understand what kind of lifestyle you want to live when you retire. Do you want an extravagant lifestyle wherein you're spending around maybe 100,000 pesos a month, or you just want a simple life spending around, let's say, 20 to 50,000 pesos a month? Again, I'm not really adjusting these for inflation anymore, just for the sake of easier math. But again, a lifestyle that costs around 100k a month, you need to have around 30 million pesos invested. And a lifestyle that costs around 20,000 pesos a month is 6 million pesos invested. So it's very different. So I know I've been talking about in terms of annual income, but when it comes to retiring, it really matters how much you're going to be spending. So I'm assuming here that you're spending below your income, so around 80% of your income. Okay, now in our 60s, how much do we aim to have? Especially if we're planning to maybe retire in our mid-60s, let's say 65 years old, which is when most Filipinos retire. You have to have around 8 to 10 times your annual income, or around 2,640,000 pesos. And also, you have to have the 25 times your annual expenses invested. So my assumption here is that you're not doing an early retirement. And when you're in your 60s, you don't really have much appetite for risk anymore. And the first thing you should do is to reallocate your investments. Like maybe moving your more volatile stocks to maybe bonds, which is more conservative. Another thing, and we've been working on this the past 2 decades, is to have your mortgage paid off or your home loan paid off. So you want to have a fully paid home already because you don't want to be paying for that anymore when you retire. So yeah, that's it. Those are the goals that we should hit in our 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, and 60s. Again, like I mentioned earlier, retirement and financial independence is really up to you and how you want to do it. This video is really not meant to make you feel bad about where you are right now, but instead it can be a guide of where you want to be. It's really very flexible, and this video is just a rule of thumb or a guide. You can always find what works for you and what's best for you because again, personal finance is personal. I hope that you like this video. If you appreciate it, please hit the thumbs up. It really helps out the channel a lot. And also, if you guys want to start investing in the US stock market, you can check out GoTrade. I've been really loving that app a lot. I'll put my invite code in the screen. You can start investing with as low as $10 to $100 or around $500 500 to 5,000 pesos. That's a really great starting point already, and you can buy stocks for $1 only or 50 pesos. So I feel like it's a good app that you should start with, especially if you're in your 20s and 30s. So if you like this video again, please subscribe and of course hit the notification bell so that you get notified every time I upload another video. And again, I know that adulting's already hard. That's why I love making these videos for you guys. This has been Charm from Ready2Adult Philippines, and I will see you on the next video.